Welcome, everybody, to the September meeting of the Bike Walk Commission. My name is Tanner Thompson. I'm the chair. We are going to get started on the agenda. Greg, as always, has put our agenda together, so thank you, Greg. The first thing on the agenda is public comment, and I don't know if we have any. Yeah, it looks like we have a couple people on the call besides just the panelists. Yeah, so go ahead. I do like to, Paul, I see your hands up. Thanks for coming. I do like to extend the opportunity first to people who haven't been to a meeting before for public comment, but I'll make sure that we get to everybody. So I see that there's a 323 number calling in. I don't recognize the number. If you're new and you want to speak, feel free to unmute yourself or put your hand up if you know how to do that from the phone.
Hey, it's Ben. I'm just coming back from the train station. I'll be online in a second.
Gotcha. Hi, Ben. Okay, in that case, I'll turn the time to Paul.
What's going on?
Go ahead, Paul.
Hey guys, I have a question. Did we ever find out why they grinded the center line off of the bikeway?
Understand that, Paul. You're coming through a little garbled, but or maybe it's me. Zoom says my connection's unstable.
Sorry about that. I was saying, did we ever find out why they grinded off the center line on the Norwalk River Valley Trail?
Yes, I can give a quick answer and Greg can expand if you'd like, Greg. My understanding was that the trail wasn't ever intended to have a center line, and that I think the nationwide best practices are to have a center line if the trail is 12 feet wide or wider, and the trail is only 10 feet wide. So the contractor installed it by mistake and then it was ground out. But that's all I know. Greg, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit it. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be installed as part of it. I mean, you see trails, around, the whole US that don't have a center line on it, especially if it's sub 12 feet. So this was made for 10 feet. So that's why it was removed in that area.
Thank you.
Greg, you are aware that some of the trail does still have the center line, right?
No, I know some of it still does, and that's kind of a bigger, as we still continue to finalize the NRVT as a whole, we'll continue to address that. But that portion of it, that's, the understanding I got as well, was just the overall width. And there's a lot of trails that don't have it. We don't want it to make it look like it's a roadway with a center line in the middle of it, especially if it's only 10 feet wide. So it was removed. But in the future, it'll be removed, especially in, a section like that, just off of Route 1 there. People may mistakenly think it's it might be a roadway or something with a center line in the middle. But it's not needed.
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else from the public who would like to give public comment? Welcome, Latoya. You're our second thing on the agenda. First is public comment. So once we, if there's anybody else from the public, we'll take your comment now. Sarah, welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's just Sarah Roy.
Have you been to one of our meetings before?
Yeah, a few months ago, maybe the May one or June one. So it had been a while, so I just thought I would hop on and catch up with y'all and see what's been going on. So I'm just here to listen, but I'm happy to be here.
Great. In case there are some new people, because I think there are, do you mind giving a quick introduction?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So my name is Sarah Roy. I'm an outreach and engagement specialist for CT Rides. And if you're not familiar, CT Rides is a program of the State Department of Transportation, and we're looking to improve people's quality of life, reduce stress, put more money in their pocket, and improve air quality by getting folks out of driving alone in personal vehicles and onto public transit, biking and walking wherever it's feasible, whether it's to work, to recreational activities, to school, to run errands, what have you. So we are a free program of the state, and love working with folks like the Norwalk Bike Walk Commission. And we'll be partnering with you in a few weeks about, in a couple weeks, the World Free World
Car
Car
Free
Free Day.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, so looking forward to that.
Awesome, thanks. I also want to brag about Sarah a little bit. Sarah, in a previous life, a few years ago, was the chair of the Bike Ped Commission in Fairfield and did great work there. So thanks for joining, Sarah.
Oh, thank you.
Any other public comment? Going once. Sarah, your hand's still up. Do you have something else? Okay, awesome. Oh, now it's back again. But I'll assume that Emily.
I just have a quick thing, but I don't know if I should be the person to bring it up. We got a public comment to our email about a sidewalk request, and then there was also someone, and Jolene, I think, is on the call today, but I CC'd you on those emails. Is this the right time to bring those up, or should I wait?
No, I think this is the public comment period. So if somebody wrote in the email, I think if you could just read it to the commission and read it into the record, that'd be great.
Yeah. So Allison Smith emailed us, and she lives on Trolley Place, and her children are required to walk on Old Trolley Way. So as are all the kids on Trolley Place and Old Trolley Way, as well as some kids across the way from Sono. They have a preschool on Trolley Place, which kids walk to, but there's no sidewalk on Old Trolley Way, and it's a major cut through from Rowayton to Sono. So kids are forced to walk in the street. They would love any assistance in getting a sidewalk and bike lanes. And her son frequently bikes to downtown Rowayton. So she found us and sent us that note.
Gotcha. Thanks for reading that into the record, Emily. I've pulled the map up here. Old Trolley Way is in the northeast corner of Rowayton, close to this industrial district in South Norwalk. And I imagine that the cut-through traffic that this woman's referring to is traffic that's coming from Witch Lane and then taking a left here on Old Trolley Way to get to either MLK or to 136. I've heard complaints about cut-through traffic on Witch Lane before, so this doesn't surprise me. As far as biking into Rowayton, for those of you who don't know, there is a connection. If you go south on Old Trolley Way, it becomes Torrey Hill Lane right here, and at the end of Torrey Hill, there is a dirt or mulch path that connects. It's like maintained. I'm not sure who maintains it. It might be just the property owner there, but it's very obviously maintained as a path that connecting Torrey Hill and Covewood here, which makes for a much safer connection, especially for a kid, than going on 136 over here, or even maybe on Highland, given that there's less traffic. I am pretty sure that it's the public right-of-way. The property lines of Google Maps indicate that it is, and I think that they're right. So that's the context. Greg, do you want to mention anything about the context here, or about any efforts to do traffic calming or sidewalks in this part of town?
So, I mean, we actually did receive that. One of the council members did forward us that request for Old Trolley Way. So
Okay.
It is for Witch Lane next year. It's supposed to be paved, and we're working on a plan right now in coordination with DPW to put sidewalks on Witch Lane. As far as Covewood, I believe Covewood is a private street. I don't think it's a public street.
Oh, really?
Yes, the Covewood Drive. I believe that's a private roadway, if I'm not mistaken. So that, as far as that connection, may be a little bit more difficult.
I see. Oh, you know what? You can see the sign here on Street View once it loads. I think it says private. Well, it says Covewood Drive. I'm not sure if it says private. But yeah, if that's the case, I would understand that it would be a little tougher to improve any of the facilities, whether that's on-street facilities on Covewood or that cut through.
But as far as Old Trolley Way, I mean, agreed. Like, yes, it does need sidewalks. We're just, we're working on addressing a lot of different sidewalk projects, upcoming right now. And, we only have so much money to go around, especially for, it's a pretty short stretch of roadway, but, still requires, I knew there's some pretty tight right of way on Old Trolley Way as well. So, we'll have to take a more in-depth look. But we are continually working on sidewalk projects across the city right now.
Yeah, I don't know this for a fact, but based on the name, I would assume that it was once the right of way for the trolley that went to Rowayton.
Yeah.
Paul, you got your hand up. Do you know something I don't?
No, I was saying this is probably one of those good treatments for like a sidewalk / bike path, you know, to kind of combine them into one instead of trying to find room for both. Something to consider.
I mean, if there's even room for that, I
Yeah,
think PMP is going to be hard pressed to find room for even a sidewalk.
usually, Paul, we would need a minimum 10 feet for that. So still
You
tight.
couldn't go down to 8. You couldn't go down to 8 feet.
You could do 8 feet for short segments. Plus, there's also a lot of driveways there as well. Usually for a shared use path, you want to minimize the amount of driveways, just because people aren't used to backing out of their driveway with two-way bike and peds coming out. But it's something we'll have to take a closer look at. It's, you know, it's more of a residential street, so we'll have to take a look at the volumes and see what the roadway cross-section widths are and see how much right-of-way we have.
Greg, can you speak at all to the concerns about which lane or old trolley way being used as a cut through and any potential traffic calming that can be done?
Well, I know in the past which lane, people have brought up that which lane was a cut through, for traffic on 136, people coming from Darien, using it to get to, bypass a lot of the Rowayton traffic and, using which lane or even Wilson Avenue, to do that. Which lane's very narrow, which lane barely gets some of it is like 20 feet wide in some spots. So plus the topography kind of changes as well while you're driving on which lane. So it's very narrow to begin with, as you can see here. So we're looking just to put a sidewalk in on which lane on one side of the street. And obviously it'll set to be repaved next year as well. So we'll look to stripe it and, and incorporate a new curb and new sidewalks as well.
Okay, thanks for commenting. Christine, your hand's up, go ahead.
Yeah, I know, and I know we want to get to Latoya. So just to, I guess, can you point out where the school is that parent was talking about, please?
I imagine, well, if the kid's an elementary school kid, they're walking to Rowayton Elementary down here. And if they're a middle school kid, they're walking to Rowayton Middle up here.
We have preschool.
Oh, preschool, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, a
I don't know.
preschool child is not out walking, are they? Like by
Maybe with their parent.
They're walking with the parent. Okay, so because I think, where's that school?
I don't know. I guess, there's a cooperative nursery school right here. I don't know if that's the one, but that is on Trolley Place right here.
So I just want to, like that is a very narrow cut through and people drive so fast there. I mean, I've used it before, but maybe, I don't know, Greg, you mentioned money. Is that a safe schools route? Could that be used money for that from those grants?
Well, we are using those funds already, to address sidewalk like we did in front of, utilizing those funds to perform work in front of Fox Run Elementary School.
Right.
As well to do those sidewalks. So, we're trying to use our concrete services contract to kind of, go after some of these smaller projects. The issue is like a longer stretch of sidewalks such as this would take a pretty good chunk of money to do even a, what is it, a half mile, 3/4 of a mile or so. So, not saying that it's not needed, or not even 1,000 feet. Not saying it's not needed. It's just more of just, finding the time and resources to get it done on top of all the other sidewalk projects that we currently have ongoing.
Right. I guess my point was, like, instead of, like, she mentioned two things, the school, and then she mentioned the going downtown on a bicycle to Rowayton Center. So I'm just saying, like, if it would just, we could focus on the smallest piece of it, the priority would be to the school. So it'd be less money rather than look at the whole, picture of that. That was just a suggestion.
So to be clear, Greg, the the improvements that you're planning for the near to medium term, one is mostly around which lane, and that is that when which lane gets repaved, you're going to be looking at sidewalks and new curbs.
Correct, yeah, so DPW is handling the paving, and we're working with them to do the sidewalk. So they'll be doing the work of the sidewalk work prior to paving begins.
And is that something that has any chance of getting in this season, or would it be next season?
No, it would be next season.
Got it. Okay. I think that answers my questions. Any other public comment? We do have an agenda to get to, but if there's somebody who hasn't spoken yet, I'll take your comment.
I had one other quick note, but it's more of a note for our commissioners. And Julia, I think you made this connection for us. Brianna, or Lorfino, I don't know if it's an I or an F, but she's an injury prevention coordinator at Norwalk Hospital. And she, one of her goals is to prevent the top injuries coming into the hospital. One of those is bike injuries. So they wanted to see if we would be open to collaborating on educational opportunities with them. So I was hoping to get maybe a few more members of our commission involved with that. Christine, awesome. Okay. Is anyone else? Okay, great.
I'm reading the email that you forwarded to me, Emily. I'm trying to figure out exactly what we could work together on. It sounds like the concrete thing that they want to work on is developing educational materials, right?
Yeah, teach safety and prevention classes. So whether she's teaching a class
they're
or
offering to teach.
I don't know. I need to learn more. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what her email says. Yes.
Yeah, to my understanding, that's what she said that she would be willing to offer, is to teach in the community, whether it's at a school or wherever we could have her.
Great. Do you know if she, I mean, we can take this offline, but suffice it to say that we do have a need for more education. I'm going to talk about this in a little more detail when I do the Bike Friendly Communities application review. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential for us to do better when it comes to education. So what's a good next step for that? Emily and Julia, do you think that you can put together a call with Brianna? Is that the right next step?
Yeah, absolutely. I have her email. She provided it. I've actually met her at one of our outreach events, so I can definitely email her and copy you, Emily, on the email as well, so we can work something out.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd like to be involved too, so copy me too, please.
Christine, I'll put you on there too.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Julia, I do have an email thread with her, so I'll add you.
Perfect.
And yeah, I sent it up.
And I'm Christine too.
Okay.
Okay,
Awesome.
awesome. Thank you, guys.
Great. Emily, thanks for staying on top of our email inbox. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce Latoya Fernandez as our next agenda item. Latoya is the relatively new, within the last year, Chair of Diversity, Equity, or Chief, is that your title? Chief of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the city. She hails from the Hartford area originally, but most recently came from San Jose, California, where she was a very dedicated and involved activist and also teacher in San Jose. One of the things that I hope that she goes into a little more detail on that she worked on there is putting together a coalition for transportation equity in San Jose. And we are now lucky enough to have her in Norwalk on the city's payroll doing this full time. So without further ado, Latoya, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I ended up having to come in here on my phone because something's going on with my audio and my video. It's not working together. So, but I made it. Hi, I am the new DEI officer for the city. I work in the mayor's office. And I get to do some great work. This is the first time that Norwalk has had a DEI office. And the mayor and the city have a commitment to advancing equity and just really creating a space of belonging for folks that work for the city and for residents. So I'm really excited to, be helping lead that work. And really excited to be here talking about transportation, and our commitment to supporting, inequity around that as well. So one of the things, just to talk a little bit about the Transportation Equity Coalition that I was a part of creating, was really centered around thinking about, people just not having access. There was a lot of, there were a lot of environmental issues coming up, but then also just around like people not having access, people not being able to get to work, and folks that are living in a certain side of town where there isn't as much opportunities for them to get access to the other places that they need to go, to get good quality food, good quality healthcare. And so during George Floyd, one of the things that was really great in San Jose was that there was this emergence of all these amazing coalitions and commissions that were driven by the community. I mean, as community leaders, we were out there talking directly to people about what they wanted, the kinds of tables that they wanted to create, in order to change just, how the city was operating. And one of the things that came out was transportation and transportation equity. So we formed a coalition. It was made up of community leaders, elected officials, and educating people on what it meant to use public transit, and also how to advocate for themselves and their communities around issues of equity and access. And then also, creating ways to incentivize community members too, to engage in more, in biking and walking and skating and just alternative ways of getting around. We were giving out bikes and helmets and tutorials on how to safely use things, but then also educating people, looking at the zoning map in the city and getting input, right there, and allowing it to kind of drive, how the city was, operating around transportation equity. So I see things like that, that are driven by the community. And also, what emerges from that are opportunities to meet the community where they're at, is, which is something that I'm really interested in, supporting the work of the Bike Walk Commission, just around meeting the community where they're at and finding ways to educate, empower, but then also incentivize, kind of trying to nudge people to move in that direction of biking and walking and using public transportation and making it more accessible. So so I thought that was really cool. And, I'm excited to kind of think about ideas like that too in Norwalk. Yeah.
Thanks very much for the introduction. A little bit more context as to why I invited Latoya to come to our meeting. As I was working through the Bike Walk, or the Bike Friendly Communities application, there's a whole section on the application about equity and asks about the different equity related plans that the city has. One of them being a transportation equity plan. And it asks about, like, do we have anybody who works full time on diversity, equity, and inclusion? And I was glad to find out that we do, and glad to meet Latoya. But I'm hoping that in the long term that the city and the Bike Walk Commission and your office, Latoya, can work together on a transportation equity plan. But frankly, at this point, we're still kind of working on the more fundamental aspects, like complete streets, which I think Greg's going to get an update on, and things like our transportation master plan. But once those like big pieces are in place, I think a transportation equity plan that focuses on what segments of our population are being most underserved by, say, sidewalks, by bike lanes, by public transportation, even by access to green space, even though it's not directly transportation, but transportation gets you there, right? That kind of stuff would be, I think, not only helpful to those segments of the population, but also very revealing about like how we have spent our money in the past and how we can make the most out of it going forward. So we have a little bit more time with Latoya. Does anybody have questions for her? Christine, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but Latoya, I met you before at a League of Women Voter event, and I just think it's great for the city, that you're on board. And this has been an issue in Norwalk. You talked about accessibility to the grocery store for healthy food. And, you know, South Norwalk predominantly, well, it was, you know, people of color and lower income. However, the accessibility to get to the grocery store was very difficult for people. And it's always been kind of hard to see, like grandmothers getting on a bus to get to the grocery store. So I look forward to kind of partnering. I hope we can make a change, because honestly, that this has gone on for, I don't know, a long time in Norwalk. So I just hope there can be a change. And even something as small, Sarah Roy's on here, is like covering bus stops for people so they're not standing out in the rain. I mean, it baffles me that Stu Leonard's has no covered bus stop across for their employees that go up to Bridgeport. You know, it's astounding how much money that store has, but sorry, I just went on a little.
Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, no, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Christine. And I definitely am taking note of that. I'm gonna raise that. I'm gonna lift that up. So I appreciate you sharing. And I think that's why it's great to have this collaboration and come into this space, because I need to hear those things, you know, so it can inform my work. So thanks for sharing. And if there's anything else too, you know, Tanner, you have my information. You all can email me. We can, you know, get some coffee, get some food, you know, and just connect and collab. I really want to hear from you. And I want to make sure that my office is more so, it's a platform for this work. So see me, you know, as a partner and an ally. And we can always think about how the city, you know, can be supporting the, you know, the efforts towards transportation equity.
Yeah, I'm pleased to report that Latoya and I had a very successful pupusa lunch today, where we did break some bread and got to know each other a little bit better. There's one last thing I wanted to bring up on this topic. Oh, I wanted to mention that I connected Latoya with Matt Pence from the Norwalk Transit District, because a lot of minority populations in Norwalk and lower income populations in Norwalk depend on the bus to get around quite a bit. And like you mentioned, Christine, with bus stops, there's bus stops and bus service plays into this quite a bit. We don't have it on the agenda, so I'll just mention it briefly now, but I have had conversations recently with Matt from the transit district about bus stops, and it's absolutely on his radar. They've got their hands full right now with the comprehensive operational analysis, but bus stops are one of the things that they're going to be looking into. There's a little bit of concern that they don't want to invest a ton of resources into bus stops if they're about to modify routes or change routes or move bus stops. But it's definitely something that's at the top of their mind. I believe that they are working through some issue with the actual shelters that most of the bus stops that have shelters are not owned by the city, and they're not owned by the transit district. They're actually owned by a third-party company that does the advertising on them. And I think that they're working through some issue with that third-party company related to getting more. Paul, you might know. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they are working with possibly, from what I remember, looking at getting another service provider for those bus shelters.
That's right.
I don't know where that's at the moment. But one thing we also have to keep in mind as well, there's American with Disabilities Act guidelines. So sometimes when we want a shelter to go into place, can't be installed because it would impede the right of way of somebody who might be in a wheelchair or a mobility device. So sometimes you got to split the baby, so to speak, and like go to shelter in order for someone to be able to safely transverse that section where a shelter would be, but would impede them from going through there.
Yeah, it's a good point. There's always trade-offs to be made, and sometimes it's not straightforward. It's not as easy as you might think to just drop a shelter in. Any last questions or comments for Latoya before we let her enjoy her evening? Alrighty. To be clear, you're welcome to stick around, but we put you on the agenda first so that you didn't have to wait through the rest of our items in order to do whatever else you have going on. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And you know, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, I'll share your contact info with the rest of the commission. I'll make a note of that right now.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Paul, your hand's still up. Did you just leave it up? I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is the Bike Friendly Communities application submission review. So for context, I think most of you know this because we've discussed it in most meetings in the last year, but we did successfully submit the application for the Bicycle Friendly Communities Award. The deadline was the 30th of August, and it was a big undertaking. I want to give a special shout out to Ben Hanpeter, who put a lot of work into it with me. Also Greg and Kyle from TMP, who answered numerous questions for me. Kyle spent multiple hours on the phone with me answering questions. And then there's a lot of people who also helped to some degree. So thank you all for your help with it. Like I mentioned earlier, there are different pieces of the application. I'm going to bring up the notes that I took because I learned a lot while doing the application, and I've collected some notes. My long-term goal is to put these, to synthesize these into a more digestible kind of set of action items and goals and ideas. But for now, I'm going to just present what I have. Give me just a sec to find it. So some of you may have seen this before. There were 5 main sections to the application. There was one about engineering, which basically means infrastructure and policies around infrastructure. There's education, which, like I mentioned earlier, that's where we have, I think, the most work to do. That's where we had to answer the most questions with with nothing. Encouragement is like, how do we promote cycling? Evaluation planning is how do we plan for more infrastructure? How do we plan, or how do we figure out, how do we prioritize upcoming projects? How do we figure out where we're falling short? And then the last one, the one that led to me meeting and getting to know Latoya, was this last section, equity and accessibility. So, for example, in the engineering section, there's 30 some questions. Each question asks about, you know, do you have this in your city? Which of these things do you have in your city? Which of these things that do this thing do you have in your city? So, for example, question number 6 asks about bicycle-friendly infrastructure development policies. Question 7 asks about the opposite, policies that limit bicycle infrastructure development. And I don't mean to get into either of those questions specifically, but in each of those cases, we made a list of the things that our city does have, the things that we are working on. So, for example, question B3 asks about guidelines for bicycle facility design, and the Complete Streets Ordinance that's in progress, it is going to include a lot of the things that they're asking about in the application. So we were able to get partial credit for that by mentioning that it was upcoming, kind of in progress. But there's a lot of things that I encountered on the application that we don't have in Norwalk, and that maybe a lot of things that we're not even working on yet that are interesting, that could be helpful. And I made note of the ones that particularly grabbed my eye. And as you can see, there's way more than we have time to go through in this meeting. This is the kind of synthesis that I was mentioned that I'm planning to do. But there's like dozens and dozens of ideas. Some of them are long-term ideas. Some of them are things that are really short. At one point, I did identify some of them in bold that could be a shorter-term win. As an example, something that's come up in meetings before is a public program that provides free bike racks upon request. That would get us some credit on the application. It would also be very good for us because secure bike parking is missing in a lot of places in the city, and there are businesses that are interested in having it in front. And if we could somehow line up people who want racks with racks, and ideally the third element being somebody to install them, that could have a lot of impact for relatively little money. That's outside the scope of this agenda item, but just as an example, lots of different things on this wish list that that could be implemented if there's somebody to work on them. So that is kind of the summary of the work that has been done. The application was submitted with everything in the existing and the upcoming column. The application didn't actually include, I didn't put the wish list things on the application, but I'm hoping that the things on the wish list can drive, that we can get them all together and prioritize them, maybe group them into categories, figure out kind of short-term, medium, long-term things that we can do. And then that might be able to inform the strategic plan that we can use going forward. But I don't think that we're going to do that in this meeting. I just wanted to put that on people's radar. So any questions or comments so far? Christine?
Yeah, thank you for pushing that through. I know it was a lot of work. And it was like 5 years in the making. So great job to everybody. My question is, when would we be hearing back?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to talk about that next. I am only now noticing that we have something in the Q&A, and that's for just a couple minutes ago from Sarah. Do you have a link to your in-process Complete Streets ordinance? The answer is yes. I can find it for you after the meeting, Sarah, but you might also be able to find it quicker by just Googling Norwalk Complete Streets. It's on the TMP website. But if you can't find it, shoot me a text and I'll find it for you. Okay, so the next thing is the next steps. And I got an email, and I think several of you were included on the email as well. And I haven't acted on it yet because I wanted to just bring everybody up to speed at the same time. So I'll just share my screen here again with this email. Thank you again for applying to have Norwalk recognized as a bike-friendly community. So the short version of the answer, Christine, is that they're going to announce the awards in December. But between now and then, there's some additional steps that we are going to go through. And the big one is the public survey. So they've given us a link to this public survey that we are to distribute far and wide to as many people as we can, especially people who ride bikes, people who live in Norwalk and ride in Norwalk, people who live elsewhere, maybe commute into Norwalk. Anybody with familiarity of the infrastructure and the conditions in Norwalk when it comes to biking. So we should absolutely share this with our mailing list. We should absolutely share this on our social media. Other community partners such as the Bicycle Co-op and Sustainable Streets, we should have them share it. TMP, Greg, do you have any sort of distribution channels apart from the ones I mentioned that you could share this on?
We don't have any, but other departments do have that we kind of piggyback off of.
Okay.
That we can distribute for, people that attended public meetings.
Great. I think that you already received this email, no? It looks like you
Yes, I received the email, yeah.
Can you take an action item to share that with those other departments with the mailing lists and have them distribute it?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll take the action item to do so with Sustainable Streets and the Bike Co-op. Anybody? Christine, your hand's up.
Yes, what about having this publicized, because it's a big deal, so it's really important we get as much feedback as we can. So the Norwalk Hour, make them aware and they can put it in their newspaper.
That's a great idea. If we're going to talk to the press, we have to go through Michelle's office, but that we absolutely can. There's another item on the agenda a little bit farther down about World Car Free Day that I'm in contact with Michelle about. I've been meaning to touch base with her again. So when I do that, I can also talk to her about a press release, but I think that's a great idea. We can get a little bit more coverage there, especially
and maybe you can combine the two in a press release, those two events.
Totally. Yeah. Sorry, I'm taking notes. Anybody else with ideas of how we could distribute this?
Oh, not that I'm a fan of this app, but that next door neighbor thing goes out to a lot of people. Neighbor next door.
Next door, yeah.
Next door.
Yeah, Emily, does Bikewalk have a presence on Nextdoor? I don't think we do.
No, we don't have a presence, but like you as a neighbor can post events and you can have events on there. So I like when we do host things, like I'll go in and create them as Emily, but we don't have like a feature business or something.
Would you be willing to put that on Nextdoor just as yourself?
Definitely, yeah.
Cool.
Could we do something in Nancy on Norwalk? Perhaps?
Again, I think that would fall into the same category as the hour where it would be a press release. Well, I mean, an op-ed would be
Oh,
different, right? One of us would
Sorry
do
if
an op-ed.
someone said that already. That's my bad.
Yeah.
I was paying close no attention.
There's bike shops. We should have them share with whatever audience they have. We've got REI, we've got Smart Cycles. We've got this store that hasn't yet gone in place of Pedigo that isn't open yet. Would anybody be willing to reach out to those? I've got a contact at REI. I've talked to Alex at Smart Cycles before. I think other people know him better.
Yeah, what if we had a, like I could have a flyer made and then would it have like the link on there or like a scan code where they could put, just scan
Yeah,
it?
we could create a QR code.
QR code for anything, for the press, everything, maybe. What is the deadline for that to be?
October 20th. Yeah, good question. The survey is open through October 20th, so we have a little over a month.
Okay. Not too much time, really.
But I think it's enough time if we get started now. It's certainly enough time. I mean, I only got word on this 3 days ago, so we're still pretty early on. Christine, can you reach out? Do you have a good relationship with Smart Cycles? I know you live close to there.
Yeah, I've known Alex for like 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do Smart Cycles, yeah. But do we create a scan code? Like I can make a flyer with the Scantron. Is that what it's called? QR code.
A QR code. I can make a QR code in 10 seconds.
Yeah, but I can get a flyer together and I can email Alex the flyer. He can send it out to maybe put it in his newsletter that goes out.
Sure, yeah. If you can, you've got students who volunteered to make flyers before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you can get a volunteer to make a flyer, go for it. Do you want me to make the QR code or can you do it?
No, the kid, we know how to do it.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Any last idea? Okay, we got a couple more Q&As. I don't want to lose track of that. Oh, no, there's just the ones we've already done. Okay, cool. Yeah, any last ideas about how we could disseminate this survey? How we could reach a wide audience? The wider an audience we can reach, the more we can demonstrate that we have a wide cycling population. Also, it's a way that we could potentially activate new people to be involved with commission or advocacy in general. And it will allow us to get a good picture. I'm sure that they'll share the survey results with us. Go ahead, Christine.
I think it should go to like the agencies in Norwalk. I like the health department, maybe they have a mailing list, the NAACP, the Norwalk Housing,
Yeah, pause. Greg, I imagine the health department's on that list of other departments that you piggybacked on. Oh, Greg's still muted.
Oh, sorry. That's a good question. I'm not sure. This just really the distribution list that we usually utilize for public meetings or emails that we've gathered from other public meetings before. So the health department list may be a separate list.
Gotcha. Juliet, can you send us out to your mailing list?
Yeah, I can ask Teresa because we have different mailing lists, so I can definitely to see which ones we have. And do you guys have anything to advertise this on like social media or anything?
Not yet.
Because I think that would be a great way to reach people.
Yeah, Christine, when you have your student volunteers make a flyer, can you have them make one that's designed for printout and a different one that's designed for social media?
Yeah, is social media like an image and the other one is like a PDF or what's the difference? I don't know.
The file type doesn't really matter, but typically the one for social will be square because that's optimized for Instagram, which is I think where we're going to find the most people. And it works fine on Facebook too. But the printout one could have more detail on it, right? Like it's a different.
Okay.
Paul, go ahead.
I'll connect with you. What about, sorry, one more thing, sending it out to city employees. City employees on that distribution list?
Based on the bike rack at City Hall, I don't know how many city employees bike around here. But yeah, sure, it wouldn't hurt. Greg, do you have a connection to whomever maintains that list?
It could just like Michelle would be able to distribute that internally to all city employees. But
Okay,
she has
I'll
access to all
mention that
that.
to
So
her.
when you speak to her, when you want to coordinate, you know, obviously through her office to do the social media posts, you can talk to her about that.
And Christine, if you need help with the social media part, I can definitely help with that because we do that stuff all the time.
Thank you. Is there, but thank you very much. Is there a commuter group? Like, I think in Westport, there's a pretty active like Metro North like group. I wonder if anybody know about that?
I haven't heard of that, but it made me think of Sound Cyclists, which we should absolutely contact. Is anybody here a member of Sound Cyclists?
We
Talk
have
to
a
Phil.
I was
Yeah, I know
gonna say
Phil is.
that and Bike Walk or no Bike Connecticut, right? Or CT
Bike Walk CT?
Bike Walk CT, thank you. They
Yeah,
would be
I
another
mean, they're a state level group. I don't know that they would have many people on their list that we're not already in contact with, but again, it's worth a shot. Are you in contact with them? Could you forward it to them, Emily?
Yes.
I'll try to get the flyer by next week and send it to everybody here.
Awesome. But nobody here is a member of Smart Cycles, or it's not Smart Cycles, Sound Cyclists. I know Nancy is, and I know Phil is.
Yeah.
So Emily, can you also be in charge of making sure word gets to Sound Cyclists?
Yeah, I have the guy's email, one of the leaders, but I'm not a member. But I can definitely get in touch with him.
And if nothing else, you can just send it to Nancy, and Nancy will know what to do.
True. And NRVT is another good group to get.
Oh,
in there.
NRVT is a great group. Yes. Can you do that too?
Yeah.
Paul.
Maybe ask the transit district to do a seat drop on their buses.
A what drop? Sorry.
A seat drop is when they put flyers on the seats. So when passengers get on, they see these flyers on the seats and they'll pick it up and read it.
That's a great idea. I can do that. I'm good to contact with Matt. That reminds me that there is a Spanish language version of the survey. Let me make sure that I'm right about this. Okay, yes. They offer a Spanish language version, but you have to request it. So I will request it like ASAP after this meeting.
All right, I'll have 2 versions of the flyer then.
Yes, please. Or maybe one version that just has both on it. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. Yeah, we absolutely should get as much feedback from the Spanish-speaking population as we can. Paul, go ahead. Your hand's still up.
Oh, sorry. But I shut it down.
Okay. I think we've got a great list here of ideas. I think we'll reach quite a population here, and we will have one more commission meeting before the deadline, so we can check in on our progress. I wonder if, sorry, just got an idea real fast. I wonder if the league will update us on progress, like how many responses we've gotten. I'll ask about that because it would be good to know when we hit our next meeting if we're getting uptick or not. We got another Q&A in the Q&A. Local Facebook groups can be a good way to disseminate the survey. Yes, that's true. Emily, you're probably the most active or most plugged in on Facebook. Can I nominate you to do this?
Yeah, I think we are a part of as Bike Walk Commission groups on Facebook, but we can also share personally. So yeah, I'll make sure we get posted in those Norwalk groups.
Awesome. Great idea. Anonymous attendee, whoever posted that. Okay. Let's move on to, well, last chance for ideas. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Oh, I guess I should wrap up and mention the other details about the process. We're going to distribute the survey. It's open until the 20th. The League of American Bicyclists is also going to share the survey with their network in the area. Like, for example, Christine, because you're a league certified instructor, I'm sure you'll be getting an email about this just by virtue of that. So yeah, the public announcement for award results will be in December, but at least the people who helped with the application, will find out 1 to 2 weeks before the public announcement. So early December, I think we should find out. Any last questions? Alrighty, moving on, we've got TMP project updates, and then we have upcoming events. Greg's got both. So Greg, I'll turn the time over to you.
Sounds good. We'll run through it. So we mentioned before the Fox Run School sidewalk project. So that wrapped up. We're put in new curbing. Brought the curb into the road a little bit to narrow the road a little bit, just because it was so wide going around the horizontal curve where Philo and Fox Run meet. So we finished up that project. Brand new 5-foot sidewalk and with a 4-foot amenity zone grass strip throughout the stretch of sidewalk. So we'll look to put in some street trees as well around there. So it was a great project. I also put in the ADA compliant ramps at the entrances and both ends of the driveway entrances as well for the school. So that was done in advance. That Philo Street will be paved and then striped, with bi-directional bike lanes in that area as well. And that will connect with the remainder of the community connectivity, which runs north on Fox Run. So once the road's paved, then we'll look to do that striping. So that was kind of the first steps. We were glad to get it done in advance of that, in advance of paving and striping plan for next year. So I don't know if anyone's seen it yet, but it looks great.
I have. It does look great. Thank you.
And it looks very nice, and it's still going to look even better once it's paved, and then even once we do the trees as well. So definitely make it much more comfortable for people walking, kids walking to school. So
I imagine that the trees are going to be in the amenity zone, the strip between the sidewalk and the road.
Correct. Yep. And a little extra buffer between vehicles and and pedestrians. So I'm excited to, that was the first major step to getting that done. So excited to kind of advance that over the early next year when it gets paved.
This was paid for with Safe Routes to School funding, I imagine?
Yes.
You mentioned that earlier, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
It was part. It was all under the concrete services contract, which it was paid for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's where the Safe Routes to School money was lumped in.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Lumped into that. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Next.
So the Union Park Race Crosswalk, that's set to commence within the next week or so. So that'll be a 6-inch raised crosswalk on Union Park, which will connect the two sides of the NRVT. So we'll just realign the NRVT trail a little bit at both ends. It's a little older section of the NRVT, so we'll definitely we're looking to kind of rehab some of the pavement on the NRVT as well to make it a little better, a smoother ride as well as you approach the race crosswalk. And this will also include 2 RFBs as well at this location. So we'll look to pull the curb out, create that recessed parking area and shorten the crossing as well with the race crosswalk. It was a little bit of a challenge for this because we did have to, include drainage into this project. So there were some drainage modifications. So, and with anytime you make any vertical changes to the roadway, we have to take drainage into consideration. And this road was no different. So we'll look to address that when the race crosswalk goes in. So we'll look to get that done. In the coming weeks, it's supposed to be set to begin. And you see the pavement on the NRVT trail, there's a little beat up. So we'll look to address that as well and put in some nice fresh pavement you know, as you approach the crossing. And then,
Yeah, it's much appreciated.
yep. And then, you know, we'll also look to incorporate once it's done, the race crosswalk, either later this year or early next year, while it's fresh pavement, we'll look to incorporate some thermoplastic pavement markings as well, which is, you know, we have a contract that was finalized over the summertime with a vendor to do some thermoplastic for the crosswalk and for the tapers as well. So make it really stand out for vehicles, you know, to kind of advance warning that is a change in the vertical height of the roadway as you approach. So much better all around for all roadway users. So we're excited to get this in, and this was a partnership with the health department who went out and you know, were able to secure some funds through a grant that they received. So we appreciate the partnership with them to you know, kind of advance this project and, you know, finally get this project kicked off. It's been some time working alongside the health department and also with DPW, you know, as far as addressing some of the drainage structures that needed to be changed, you know, to put this in. So yeah, so we're excited. So this will be the second race crosswalk, 6-inch race crosswalk that we put in, you know, the other one being on Washington Street. You know, others we put in are 3-inch. So this will be a 6-inch, you know, which will be, you know, a pretty large size once it's in, but we're excited to see it go in.
So a question, Greg. It's a two-part question. One, how long do you anticipate the construction will last? And two, will the trail still be usable either through this right of way or through a detour during construction?
So we'll have to be detoured for a short portion. It won't take long as far as construction. I mean, the main portion is the drainage is going to have to be set first, and then they're just going to have to remove the sidewalk where the ramps are located now, because there pretty much won't be any ramps per se, because it'll be a 6-inch crosswalk. So it'll just be one smooth surface going across. So there will be some disruption, you know, during construction, especially as they, you know, tear up the road and the drainage structures as well. As you can see, there's 2 catch basins that are right in the middle of the crosswalk. And obviously the race crosswalk can't be on an angle like the crosswalk is now. So that's why we have to slight realignment of the NRVT trail. You know, the path itself, not much, you know, just to make it a smoother ride going across.
What will the detour be? Like, I imagine that while the construction is going on, somebody trying to just, you know, go through on the trail, will it be passable at all, or will they have to?
Yeah, no, it'll be passable.
Okay.
It'll just be like any other utility work that's going on a road. You know, we'll make a you know, a separate you know, crosswalk for trail users while construction is going on.
That's what I wanted to hear. Awesome.
There'll be traffic cones. I mean, it's not like they'll be closed off and they have to turn around or, you know, go another way. We'll just create a new you know, a separate crossing for them for trail users.
Cool. All right, that's all of my questions. Any other questions from commissioners about this? All right, do you want to keep rolling, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. So pavement marking installations, I'm sure a lot of you have seen recently, there's been a lot of new pavement markings that have been put into place, you know, which we're very excited about. Most recently, the bike lanes on Richards Avenue have been installed, namely from Route 1, to West Cedar Street. Those recently went in. The long lines went in. You know, the symbols have to still be put in, and some of the smaller detail work, you know, are set to be put in the coming weeks. But the long lines are in, the bike lanes are in. You know, and we also used a 6-inch solid white line on Richards Avenue as well, just to give a little bit more of a, you know, just a little bigger line for you know, drivers, just to, you know, kind of see the difference between the bike lane and the travel lane, the vehicle lane. So we're very excited to get this portion of Richards Avenue done. And, you know, I don't know, and if you saw it by the Walmart driveway as well, we also worked with Public Works Department to bring the curb out as well and create a sidewalk at the portion.
Where's this?
By the Walmart driveway, if you go on to.
Oh, yes. No, I remember. I don't know if it was in another meeting or when, but somebody explained this to me. So, like, we're getting a new sidewalk here.
Yep, it's already in. Yep. Yeah, so you now have a continuous sidewalk there, and then we'll work with TPW to put in a sidewalk, the remaining short portion of sidewalk a little further north there, which will make continuous sidewalks on both sides of the street, on Richards Avenue, which is pretty heavily traveled, whether it's by bike or by foot or by vehicle. So it's a pretty busy corridor. So we're kind of excited to, kind of bring that complete streets element into this street. With the addition of that.
Question for you. Obviously, the school formerly known as NCC, now it's CT State Norwalk, is one of the big destinations along this section of the bike route. Has TMP been in contact with any like representative or liaison from NCC about this?
We have, yes, and we've also, about the corridor in general, and just trying to, incorporate, look to see how we, make it more, because it's a destination in the city. We want to make it definitely more of a, travel friendly corridor, if you will, for all modes of travel. So, Jim has had contacts with the CEO at NCC. So, next year, early next year, they're going to be paving Richards Avenue from West Cedar to Phyllis Street. So we'll look to continue those bike lanes. Not in front of the school, unfortunately. We don't quite have the roadway width, especially with some of the on-street parking. But just north of the school, we do have bike lanes carrying you all the way up to Phyllis Street, and that was part of the community connectivity grant that we got. So that will take you all the way up to Route 123.
Yeah. I recall asking before about the on-street parking because it seems like a shame with these massive parking lots to lose the bike connectivity for the sake of a handful of on-street spots. And the answer I remember getting was the community connectivity grant was locked in a long time ago, and we're following those plans. Once they're done, then we can revisit this.
Yeah, we'll look to address that on a future project, and see how we kind of incorporate, obviously some better streetscape options, and maybe it's more than a bike lane. Maybe it's a shared use path instead. It's definitely we definitely have the room to incorporate, at least a minimum bike lanes on both sides. But we'll work with the school, and we'll try to address that in a future project.
Gotcha. Hope it's a near-term future project, of course. Last thought on this from me is, given that we have or Jim is in contact with NCC, I think it would be good for the Bike Walk Commission also to have contact with somebody there. It would be, I'm imagining, for example, that somebody from our commission could talk to them about how we can assist with helping them help their students bike to school more easily. Like, obviously there's an infrastructure component, but given that that's kind of in progress, there's other components, education, encouragement, that also need to be met, and we could potentially help with that. Any ideas, Greg, for what the next step is? Or Christine, do you have a contact there?
So I think we both do. Is Erica Kipp, I think, is a professor of environmental science, and wasn't she on our audit walk the last month? Erica Kipp, yeah. She's also at the city, represents the I don't know if it's the Tree Alliance, but there's an
I've heard
environmental
her name before, but I'm not sure I've met her. I don't remember meeting her at that walk audit. But you have a contact with her?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was on that walk audit.
Maybe she wasn't. I just didn't meet her.
Yeah.
We've met her a few times, actually, Tanner. She was at the NRVT thing. I think she's with the Tree Advisory Committee.
Gotcha.
Yeah, definitely. I can help you with that, Christine. I think I have her email somewhere.
Yeah,
I definitely have her. But yeah, that would be good, Emily.
Yeah, if one of or both of you could reach out to her and offer assistance from Bike Walk Commission in terms of educating and encouraging students.
Yeah, I wonder if we should invite her to a meeting, maybe to speak about her.
Yeah, do one of you want to take that on? As I prefer to assign it to a specific person so that the ball doesn't get dropped. Which one of you wants to do that?
Oh, do you want me to do it, Christine? I can keep you in the loop in there too. Take it on.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, and thanks.
Okay, Emily's going to reach out to Erica Kipp. from NCC. Awesome.
One more thing on Richards there. We also installed a bike box as well. As you head north, as you approach West Cedar Street. So we're able to put another bike box
Great.
in as well. So that's Richards Avenue. We also strike West Rocks and Aiken Street as well. We incorporated bike lanes. And then Bain Street, we're looking
Is this the entirety of West Rocks?
not the entirety of West
Okay.
Rocks. No, this is only the portion, a short portion that was paved last year. Well, this year, I should say.
Yeah, it was paved because of utility work, right?
No, not because of utility work. That was another part of West Rocks last year.
Oh.
That was a water project that was paved. This year, as part of DPW paving, they paved from Creeping Hemlock to Route 7, where we actually worked with DPW to widen the road actually to get to 30 feet in order to get bi-directional bike lanes in that short segment there, which was, it was quite a bit of work just to do that. We actually moved utility poles. We moved the hydrant where we put in 5-foot compliant sidewalks and bi-directional bike lanes as well.
Gotcha. So it's this northernmost section of West Rocks.
Correct. Yeah, we weren't able to put a bike lane through that whole section. It's mostly from Creeping Hemlock to Bain, only because Bain Street to Route 7, there's a lot of challenges in that, where poles, topographical issues. So that will be looked at as a kind of future project to widen that road. But Creeping Hemlock to Bain is something that we kind of looked at as like the vision for all of West Rocks Road, where we got a 30-foot wide cross section, throughout with sidewalks, with grass strips, that are adjacent to the roadway. So more comfortable for biking and walking as well.
Gotcha. So it's a little bit of a pilot on it.
In a way, yes. Yeah. I mean, before we widened the road, we saw, minimum widths of 24 feet in some spots. So we were able to widen the road pretty significantly in some spots to get to that 30 feet. Looks night and day difference, which I think you might be able, if you go to Street View, Tanner, I think you can see
Has it already been captured?
I think it was captured. Yeah. I don't know if they put the curb in, but
dang, somebody's on top of it.
Yeah, so they haven't done the curving yet here, but they see how much they widen the road. And then if you go back in time.
Yeah. Yep.
You can see the difference in that pole on the left there. We actually had Eversource move the pole actually, which was pretty significant to have them move that pole, because it's not as easy as just, hey, can you move a pole for us? That'd be great, thanks. There's a lot more work to it, and we mainly widened the road on the right hand side there. We also left ourselves open for in the future to maybe put a sidewalk on the other side of the road, one day as well. So something we another project in the future. But it was good coordination with DPW, and we were able to get it in. So yeah, it is more of a pilot, and it's a short section, yes, but people can kind of see what it's like. So it was much needed. And then Bain Street was paved as well. That's going to be laid out this week and striped this week. We'll get a segment of bike lanes, bi-directional bike lanes in here as well.
And will that extend all the way from West Rocks to Grumman, or just
not all the way? No, we had some some constraints as you head more east. The bike lane will go from West Rocks to just beyond Bain Court. We're able to get bike lanes in. But past that, we'll just have Sherrills carrying you the rest of the way, just because we had a lot of constraints as you head more further east.
Gotcha. So this was more of a best effort, like we're repaving it, so we should get what we can.
Yeah, and we got brand new sidewalks in as well. Concrete curb, which is another big thing. 10-foot travel lanes. New crosswalks. So that's all going to be laid out this week and then striped. Hopefully by the end of the week there. And then for community connectivity, we're
pause, Greg, before you move on to that. There was a press conference like a year and a half ago with some of our elected officials who won a bunch of money for sidewalks down the length of West Rocks.
Yep.
What's the status of that?
So the status of that is, it was a earmark projects because it came from the federal government. So Congressman Hines was able to secure that funding through earmarks. Nobody, with all these grant fundings, somebody needs to manage the project, if you will, manage the funds, I should say. Because they don't just hand out money and say, okay, do whatever you want. You have to, go through certain requirements of the project and make sure that you meet all those requirements of the project. So it took some time to set up the program. So DOT is managing the program. So now we are starting design, in the coming months. We're going to start design to, perform sidewalk work on France Street and West Rocks, all the way from Route 1 all the way to Route 7. Keep in mind, we only have $1.4 million to do all this work. You might say it's a lot of money, but for sidewalks, it's also almost a 3-mile length of roadway here. So luckily DPW was able to do that northerly section there this year. But we're working on those designs right now to address those sidewalks on the west of West Rocks and France Street as well.
Gotcha. So to summarize, the money, when the press conference was held, it was because the money was moving from the federal government to the state, essentially. But now the state has the money, they've set up the program, and they are working with you to make sure that you're going to use that money properly. And part of that is that you're starting this design work.
Yeah, I mean, the state didn't encumber the money directly, right away from the federal government when we had that press conference. It was more just Norwalk was awarded that money from the earmark funding from the federal government, and a program had to be developed in place to set up that, not only for us, but for all the other Connecticut municipalities that, were awarded those earmark projects.
But it's not a grant program that we are still needing to apply to. Like, it's already been allocated to Norwalk.
It's been allocated for this specific project. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Along with all the other municipalities that, were awarded money, appropriation funds from the federal government as well. There just needs to be a program in place to monitor the project and meet all the requirements of the project. Throughout the design process.
Is it 1.4 million for all construction, or is it for design and construction?
It's for design and construction.
Okay, so you're starting to use that money with this.
So we're doing the design in-house.
Oh, you are? Great.
Yeah. So we're starting that design. But like I said, it's a pretty lengthy roadway, so it's going to take time.
Yeah.
To do so. But we're gonna, we're starting it soon, and we're going to continue to work on the design and continue to work with DOT to have that project start up soon. But starts with design.
Great. Okay, thanks for answering all those questions. I know that the rest of West Rocks wasn't explicitly on the agenda, but I think given that the smaller project up here at the north end is part of the larger context, I figured it would be good to put in context. Any other questions for Greg about this? Alrighty, go for it, Greg.
So one more other thing for striping is concerned. We've been talking about it for years, but the community connectivity pavement markings is nearly complete. Safety Markings, our striping vendor, has been working all year to install this the community connectivity project. Small portion of it was that green pavement and red pavement on 4 Point Street at Seaview Avenue, which that was completed. We relocated the bus stop, added more parking spaces, adding bike lanes, the bike boxes, the green and red pavement. So it looks great. We're very happy with it. But it's the entire stretch of the community connectivity. So it's a long portion, about over 17 miles worth of lane miles, which is of signage and striping, which was a long project to install. So we're there it is. So we're happy to to see it as it comes, as it almost finishes installation. Like I said before, the Richards Avenue, Phyllis Street segment, by Fox Run and, NCC there, that will be installed once it's paved. So that will just be that remaining section that needs to get done. But with the pavement and the condition that it's in, it's not worth to put that in right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we'll just look to pave it and then we'll install it. But the rest of it is nearly done, which we're quite excited about because it's been years in the making.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any plans for any sort of commemoration, a party, a press conference?
We'll look to do something, at a later date, especially around the 4 Point Seaview area, and even maybe somewhere around the north-south route as well. So, but we're talking about some options.
All right, well, keep
like
us
a
in the loop.
formal kickoff. So
We definitely love to celebrate.
Yeah.
Paul, what you got?
I just want to say, Greg, good job. I've been writing the stuff on Highland all weekend. Fantastic.
Thanks, Paul.
I mean, strictly speaking, Highland isn't part of this project, but
It's not part, it's not, but Highland still was a newly paved road, so, but still more mileage of bike lanes, which is nice. So, but thank you, Paul.
So that rounds out the project list.
I just want, yeah, by Veterans Park, that big green area, fabulous. I rode through there. I felt so safe, being in the lane. I got honked at because I think drivers are still getting used to what that is, but I didn't care. I was really felt so safe there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's different, and it's the first of its kind in Norwalk, and other municipalities, Stanford, New Haven, it's being used, Hartford, West Hartford, there's a lot of other municipalities that have, already begun using it, and so it's new, but I think it's something that, over time, maybe something the Bike Walk Commission can, maybe something you guys can do and, do like an education campaign around it and, show drivers and cyclists how to navigate, because we still see, cyclists not using it properly because they don't know, and, sometimes seeing drivers not knowing how to use it either. So, even with the green bike boxes as well. So, it's an adjustment.
The bike symbols are actually painted. I think we're doing a lot better. But there were a few weeks there when the green paint was down, but there weren't any bike symbols, and people were super.
Right. Yeah, but those went in like a few weeks ago. So
yeah,
we're still seeing some people not knowing what to do, even still. So, but something to just to put out there, for you guys to talk about. Any other questions about that, or any other pavement markings? No.
Anybody? We are now behind schedule on the agenda, so I suggest we roll right into the events section.
Okay. So this will go quick. So Complete Streets, the public workshop. So I don't know if anyone saw on social media on Friday. We're planning a Complete Streets public workshop for the public on September 28th. It's a Thursday from 5:30 to 8. And it'll be run by by us and also by our consultant FHI Studios, who's handling the design manual. And we want to hear from the public to see how you all want streets to be shaped in the future. So we definitely want a good turnout of people to come. We'll have different sessions. We'll do presentation. We'll also do working groups as well, and we'll look at a couple different corridors and different street typologies and get a sense of what the public wants to see as well. And have everybody have the community kind of shape the way the future of the street should be. So we definitely encourage all of you to attend that. We'll keep providing updates on social media, but try to get the word out September 28th, 5:38, and that will be at the City Hall Community Room.
Greg, I checked the TMP website, the Complete Streets Project website, and it mentions that there's going to be a workshop, but there's no details. Can you make sure that the details get added to the website?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Just so it's a little more discoverable. Like ideally, somebody can Google Norwalk Complete Streets Workshop and it'll come up.
Yep.
And you said it's in the City Hall Community Room?
Community Room, yep.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And then,
sorry. I was gonna ask jokingly if there's gonna be pizza.
Oh, we haven't decided that yet. That's not on our radar quite yet. We just wanted to get the details out. And, you know, we'll have more details as it gets closer.
To be clear, I'll be there with or without pizza.
Okay, good to know.
Is there an RSVP that people do, or you just show up?
Yeah, you can just show up. We didn't have an RSVP link for this one.
Okay. And then is it online as well, or just in person?
So it'll be just in person. But we also will afterwards, after the meeting, we're trying to create an online submission as well, so people can still provide comments like we've done with other public meetings in the past, where if you weren't able to attend, we still want to, you know, hear some comments from the public as well. So we'll have those details as it gets closer as well, for those who aren't able to attend.
Thank you.
Paul, go ahead.
Is there any materials that we might be able to read ahead of time that we might be showing? That way I can come prepared.
Not that I know of. I'll have to check with the consultant, but I don't think so. You know, like I said, it's, you know, we'll do a presentation on complete streets, you know, define what they are, because a lot of people don't know what they are. I mean, Paul, you probably do. So, you know, but we want to get people kind of up to date on what it is. And, you know, and in that workshop, you know, just have people kind of help us, you know, what they envision the streets to look like, especially in different typologies of the street, and different cross-section width. So you don't really need to come with anything, just come with an open mind and and ready to participate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, out of all people here, I think Paul comes with expertise. Obviously TMP is going with expertise too, but I look forward to seeing Paul's take on what you guys have there so far that you're presenting, and also look forward to seeing what you're going to present.
Yeah, absolutely. So one other thing to update as far as the complete streets process. So we're going to also be doing a demonstration project as well. So while we were looking to do it sometime later this fall, we're going to push that back to the early spring. At this point
really?
now. Yeah, just because of the timeline, we're getting, you know, almost mid-September. You know, we do have, you know, we want to really do this right, and we want to get a lot of people on board, you know, with it. And we want it to be out there for the public to see, you know, and by the time it gets out there, you know, weather changes quickly this time of year, especially by the time it goes in another month or so. So you're looking at almost November, where the weather could start to change. So we're still going to be involved in the complete streets process. So if we did it in the fall, it's more of a prequel to the complete streets. But if we do it in the springtime, it's kind of more of a, you know, kind of like that final stage, the finale to complete streets. So the public may have a better understanding of what complete streets are. And then when we roll out that demonstration project, you know, people will get a better sense. And at that time of year, more people are apt to go outside and just see, you know, see the work that we've done, you know, for the selected location, and people will get a better sense of what complete streets are in that regard. Plus, there's a lot of materials that need to be, you know, ordered and figured out in a short time span. So we need to, you know, we want to do it right. So we're gonna put it on pause until the springtime, and you know, we still want, you know, still going to be the same thing. We're just putting on hold till the early springtime, and we still want all of you to participate in it as well. So definitely, but you know, you'll see that kind of prequel during the public workshop, and then over the winter time, you'll see the design guide kind of start to take shape, and then the early springtime, you'll see that actually, you know, implemented into, you know, a temporary, you know, demonstration project and design.
Gotcha. Well, it seems like all the reasons you cited are good reasons, but it's still disappointing to hear that it's going to be delayed by several months.
Well, I wouldn't be disappointed in it, because I mean, it's not, you know, we want it to be out there for people to see. You know, if we put this out there and it only lasts for 2 weeks, and you know, the season changes quickly, and everybody said, well, I didn't get to see it. I didn't get to be part of it or volunteer for it. You know, and we didn't make the, you know, we didn't make the splash that we wanted to and get people's eyes on it that we wanted to. Early springtime, people want to be outside. They want to, you know, better timeline for us to leave it out there for an extended period of time for more people to see.
Okay, so it sounds like the change that happened wasn't that we figured out that we weren't going to be able to do it at the time that we thought. Because as recently as like a week ago, I heard that it was going to be like first, second week of October. But it sounds like we decided that the priority was to make sure that we had more than a couple weeks for it to be out
Yeah,
there. So we're planning
it's
that
tight.
in the spring we'll have it maybe 3-4 more weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you look now, like we're almost in the middle of September, you know, you know, it's something that, you know, takes time to put in, you know, obviously a lot of volunteers will come into it. So, you know, like I said, we're still
it's on the schedule for a long time. So my point is not that the timeline has slipped, but rather that we
Yeah.
decided that we wanted to make sure that we could have it out for longer, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of the main drivers, yes.
And by we, I guess it's the project team, because it's been a little while since we had a steering committee meeting.
Yeah, the SAC, yeah, it's been a little while, but this is with discussions not only with our department, but FHI, with DPW, because this project also, we need to maintain it as well. You know, we also need to have crews be able to, you know, take it out. Obviously, we'll have volunteers put it in, but it takes a large, you know, group of people to temporarily install something like this, especially when we want to include a lot of the amenities that we're aiming to, you know, to put in here for people. We don't want to just do it kind of, you know, not to its full potential. You know, we want to do it right.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, I agree with all the arguments, but if nothing else, I was looking forward to seeing it soon, and having to wait several more months means that many more months to wait.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have the winter here, so we have to deal with. So
Today we certainly didn't. Still
no,
feels like
I know, I get it, but that could change pretty quickly, especially in a month's time. So,
Yep. All right. Any questions from the peanut gallery about the Complete Streets project, either the workshop or the demo project that's now going to be in the spring? All right. Okay, the last event on the agenda is World Car Free Day, which Greg, you put it under your name. Do you have any particular updates?
No, I know. You know, I just put it under upcoming events. So
Gotcha.
That's you. That's your thing.
So I can't remember if this was covered in our last meeting or not, but Sarah, who I think we've lost her now, but she was on the call at the beginning. Sarah brought to my attention that September 22nd is World Car Free Day. And I thought that it would be awesome if we could observe that as a city to some degree. So I brainstormed with some other people a bunch of ideas and emailed them to Michelle Woods Matthews from the city's communication department and said, you know, which of these could we do this year? And which of these could we maybe think about doing in future years? And she got back to me, and the summary is that the city is going to include in their Transportation Tuesday social media posts, both tomorrow and a week from tomorrow, information about World Car Free Day. They're going to include an invitation for people to make a plan on how to go car free and to post about it and to send the city pictures of them either going car free or pictures of the things that they plan to use, whether that's their bike or the bus or whatever. And the city is going to highlight those people and their information, their pictures they've sent in on the city social. So I'm pretty excited about that. Christine, you had your hand up.
Yeah, sorry about that. So it's that I've never heard of this event, but anyway, I was going to comment about our open street event that we had in the spring, and we did speak about having it again in the fall. So at some point, I don't know if that can get commented on.
It's not on the agenda for today. We are behind on time, so our next meeting is in only 3 weeks. So I would suggest that we carve out some more time to talk about it. The short version is that I haven't had any conversations recently. Emily and I had a debrief with Jim Travers and Robert Stowers from Parks after that, but it was right before I left on vacation, and I think that was part of what happened because I forgot about it after that. But yeah, let's carve out some time next month. I think that with everything going on and given that it's already September, I think that probably the move is to plan it for the coming spring. But
Yeah.
let's talk about it more next month. Is that all
I'm
right?
gonna reach out. There's also the Chamber of Commerce puts out a city calendar with events, like for the calendar, like a print calendar. It's in their office, the chamber. It's in the tourism, the Office of Tourism in the city of Norwalk. They have an office of, that's not the name of it, but I think it's I don't know.
Okay.
Julie, if you know what the name is, but anyway, we should get some of these things on the calendar as permanent, like bike month in May, this
Great.
event.
Can you reach out to them and figure out how much lead time
Yeah.
they need?
Yes, I will.
Great. I'm gonna make a note of that. You said it was the Chamber of Commerce or the Biz Dev and
So
Tourism?
they work in conjunction with the tourism.
Okay.
uh,
Great. Okay, so back to our regularly scheduled programming. Yeah. A week from Friday is the World Car Free Day, September 22nd. I reached out to Nick about drafting some resources, like some language that we can put on the city website, either on, as part of the Bike Walk website or part of the TMP website or part of public health. Where it ends up, it doesn't matter as much as the fact that we have a centralized place where people can go to with resources about how to get around Norwalk without a car. And that includes things like a map of the bike routes, a map of the bike racks, and links to Norwalk Transit District information, and stuff like that. So, Nick, do you have any updates on that?
No updates.
No updates. Can you do that soon? Ideally, so that we can get the website launched before next Tuesday when the city does their next social media post. They're going to post tomorrow, but I don't think we can get anything by tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do.
Awesome. And Julia, thanks Julia for volunteering to help Nick with actually getting that onto the website.
Anytime.
Another idea that I brought up that has been circulating, it looks like it's not going to happen this year because it's kind of an undertaking that we didn't have enough lead time for this year, but the idea has been circulating to get some sort of funding for the transit district to go fare free for the day. So that's something that looks like it might be pretty feasible next year, which is exciting. So keep that in your back pocket. But that's the summary. I would invite all of you to obviously to go car free that day. Also to post about it on your whatever social media you maintain for yourself, and to watch the city's social media so that you can send whatever, I don't know exactly the format they're going to ask for it in, but I think they're just going to ask for pictures and for maybe a little blurb about how you're going car free. So watch for that. We're definitely going to reshare it on the Bike Walk socials. And if you all could engage with that, that would be awesome. Any questions? Cool. Okay, last time on the agenda is the budget and bike valet program. Nick, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. So, speaking to the budget in general, just still kind of fleshing out some ideas as to how to better utilize the budget so we're not scrambling to use it all at the end of the fiscal year, if you will. Part of that is like doing some more planned social events that we set aside money for, as well as some more commissioner development, such as sending commissioners to the walking college. And one big item would be buying valet bike racks, which we'll segue into with what I've actually done so far for valet bike racks. So we weren't able to get valet bike racks for bike parking set up for the Seaport Association Oyster Festival this past weekend. Things were just a little too tight on time. But I realized that the longest lead time item for having valet bike parking is the actual valet bike racks. And so that's the thing I'd like to take care of first. I've got some quotes, one kind of less formal, one kind of more formal. Greg, if you could, can I share my screen?
You should be able to. I can share mine. And you're a panelist just like me. While Nick pulls that up, I do want to point out that Nick did a lot of legwork contacting the Seaport Association and working through their concerns with them. So like the pump is primed. They're ready for us to do this at a future oyster festival. We just didn't end up with enough time this year, but they were receptive to the idea, and ordering bike racks right now I don't think is out of order, because we do have buy-in from a festival.
Yeah, I'm having some trouble here. I can't tell which of my screens it would share, so I'd rather not play screen roulette.
If you want to forward me whatever you've got, I can share it.
Yeah, well, I guess just a more open question. One of the quotes is really just an email reply, and it's obviously less formal. I've already asked if I can get a more formal quote, but I'd like to know, Greg, is that sufficient?
Usually a formal quote is better. I mean, I would have to leave it up to the purchasing department. Also, how much, because we have purchasing guidelines that we have to follow. How much is it, and how much are you guys looking to spend? Because we may need 3 quotes depending on how much it is.
So one quote is $800 before shipping.
Okay.
And the other quote is $1,175 including shipping.
Okay, so we just need the 2 quotes, so that's fine.
What's the threshold, Greg? Is it 2,000?
So over five grand, we need three
Oh, over
quotes.
5 grand.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure how much you guys were
Gotcha.
looking to.
Yeah, we're sitting pretty good.
Oh,
Yeah.
over 5 grand is 3 quotes.
3 quotes, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So once I get that more formal quote, or can I just send you an email and we see how that goes?
Well, the first thing that needs to be done is that the commission needs to vote to spend the money. I guess that doesn't necessarily need to be done first, but that's something we could do tonight, right? And then in order to actually make the purchase, we need 2 quotes. I think we probably need 2 formal quotes, and then we can go through with the actual purchasing of the lower quote. Is that right, Greg?
Yeah. And just one thing, just keep in mind, everybody, and when you guys want to buy something, the city will take care of the purchase order and the purchasing of the item. So that means when the city purchases it, we will receive it, and then the Bike Walk Commission can have access to it. Nobody can go to the place and pick it up. The city has to receive it first because it's city funds. While yes, it's the Bike Walk Commission budget, it is city operating funds. So just keep that in mind. Send us the quotes, and then the city will handle the ordering of the product. We will receive it, and we'll let you know when it's in. The city won't pay for anything until we receive it and make sure we have accounted for everything. So just keep that in mind. That's the city purchasing guidelines. So whenever you guys do want to buy something, we have the quotes, to send it to us, and we'll take care of the actual ordering and the purchase order creation process per our guidelines in the city.
So I think that gets murky when we're ordering from places that are local, but I don't think that either of these rack options are local.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's local or outside. It still needs to come to City Hall first.
Well, sure, but like in that case, you're saying that instead of getting it shipped to like somebody's house, that we should absolutely.
Yeah, it can't get shipped to somebody's house because it's city funds, because we don't know. How do we know if it was received?
Fair enough. Okay.
And how do we know if it was right?
Sure. Okay, so I think, does everyone understand that? The policy is that if we're going to spend money, we get the quotes, we send the quotes to Greg. Greg works with purchasing. They do the purchasing. They get it shipped to City Hall. And then once the city has made sure that everything worked, then we can start using it.
I'll remind you what happened last year with helmets.
Yeah, I'm well aware, but if you want to update everybody else.
Well, we had to spend the money before we received something because it was the end of June and it had to be paid for. So we paid for it. And let's just say we received our last order of helmets in June of 23.
Yeah, and that's why
a year later
we have agreed since then that going forward that we're going to do payment upon delivery, which is part of the process that you just outlined.
Yeah.
The payment, part of the reason that it needs to be delivered to the city is because the city hasn't paid for it yet. City needs to confirm they've received it, and then they'll make the payment.
Yes, correct. That's why I'm glad you're looking to spend money early, which is good, so we don't have that issue in June. But just keep in mind of the purchasing guidelines, and that's the city purchasing guidelines.
Yes, Christine.
Yeah, so two things. So the bike valet, where would it be housed? And the second thing is, we discussed something last meeting, but it wasn't on the agenda, that about quotes on a porta potty for the NRVT, but that can go for the next meeting. But I guess in the future, if something we discuss and then we have action item, it should automatically be on the agenda that we bring up again, because I did do some homework on that. And I think Greg did some homework on that question. But the bike valet, I guess, where is that getting housed? Because that's equipment, right?
Nick, do you have an answer for that?
My initial plan was to have it in the bike walk closet in the garage.
The Yankee Doodle garage.
Right.
Yeah. I haven't looked at both quotes. I know that one of the options is like collapsible, so it stores in not very much space. I don't know if both are, but yeah,
it would either way, it would have to go in the closet at the garage, because we don't have the room at City Hall to keep it.
All right. I mean, that
And
works.
if it is foldable, we don't have the space.
Does it work for you, Christine?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know there was a garage with a closet or space. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've been storing some of our stuff there.
Yeah, and then also, can somebody pick it up whenever it's needed? Does somebody have a vehicle that's large enough to pick it up?
I think all the commissioners have cars, even if they don't.
I would say I don't know how big it is, so I'm just making sure.
Yeah, you said that one but not the other is modular.
They're both modular. They both fold up into basically really long, thin boxes.
Great. Okay. Christine, do you have another question? Your hand's still up.
No, but I just want to acknowledge Sherry online and Brian and Gary, because they've been here, and Peter, they've been here the whole time, and it's just wonderful to have them here.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you all for being here. I think some
happy
of you
to be here.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
So I just said happy to be here.
Oh, great. I know some of you were here during public comment, and maybe some of you weren't. We are over time on our agenda, so I want to wrap up and get you all home. But let's see, a couple open threads. One, Christine mentioned that there's to-do items or action items from last month that didn't make it onto this month's agenda. Going forward, Greg, do you mind making that part of the agenda process, just checking the notes from the last meeting and putting any outstanding action items on there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
And if you want something on, I know I usually send a, reminder, but just, if you have something on the agenda, just email me, that you want on the agenda, just let me know.
Yeah. And Christine, I think that you, just today, you emailed about those two different items that you mentioned. So now
I know, and I forgot, Greg, to send it to you. I'm sorry, Tanner.
No,
I didn't mean to wrote Tanner. I'm sorry. I forgot that we had discussed, to send it to you.
No, all good. All good. All good. I will say one thing about the porta potties is I do have to just speak with Rec and Parks, because they're the ones that actually manage the trail as far as maintenance is concerned. So it would be up to the parks to decide where it goes, and and then obviously it would be up to you guys to determine the cost, because it has to be maintained. So just think about that for next meeting, and we'll talk more about it next meeting.
So to wrap up the thread about the bike racks, Nick, do the prices that you said that for one of the prices you're missing the shipping, right?
Right.
But in both cases, how many bikes does the amount of racks that you quoted the price for fit?
One does 25, the other does 26.
Okay, so quite comparable. And I imagine that both of them are built in such a way that if we bought more of that same type, that we could extend, or maybe we don't need to, because they could just sit independently, right?
Right.
Yeah. Then to me, it seems like that number 25 or 26 is a great starting point. you know, it could be that our demand exceeds our supply, which is a good problem to have. And in that case, I think we just, you know, go back to the commission and spend some more money. But that seems like a good starting point to me. I don't remember if I can, Delene, am I allowed to make any motions or not? Because I was going to move to spend some money, but if I can't do that, I'll ask for a motion. But I'll assume that I can't.
Tanner, you can raise a motion to, you know, to buy the racks, and then people, you know, can go off that, you know, vote, because we have what, 4?
Yeah, we have a quorum. Okay,
We have
well then
quorum, so
I'm going to make a motion that we allocate $1,200, which should be enough for the one quote with shipping and probably enough for the other quote with shipping. I'll say 1,300 just to make sure. To allocate $1,300 or however much comes in for that other quote. Well, I guess we're going to use the lower of the two either way, right? So the higher of the one with shipping is $1,175. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to spend $1,175 to buy the lower of the two quotes that Nick has once the other one comes in with shipping, to be used for bike valet parking at Norwalk events. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second.
All right, so that everyone's voted in favor, so that passes unanimously. We only have the 4 commissioners. Yeah, great. Okay, cool. Nick, thank you for all your work on this. I'm excited. Have you made contact with the half marathon? We talked about potentially trying to pilot at the half marathon.
I haven't broken through yet.
Okay. I hope that works. If it doesn't work this year, it's not the end of the world. I know that the one quote said that they only had a week lead time, so if we did order soon, we could potentially get them in time, but if we don't, we'll have plenty of time to plan for next year.
Yeah.
And Nick, see if you can, from the other quote, see if you can get a formal quote with shipping and everything involved, and the price, so that we can, that will satisfy purchasing.
Yep, already in the works.
Thank you.
Awesome. So that's everything that's on our agenda. Well, with the exception of the minutes. And actually, I had a question for Delene about the minutes. Delene, are you there? I think that we have lost connection with Delene. If I'm not mistaken, Delene sends me the minutes every time she compiles them, which is usually just a few days after the meeting. They go to me and Greg. I was wondering if they could go to all the commissioners, because ultimately all the commissioners, I think, should review them. And I'm often behind on my inbox. Like this last month, I don't think I ever forwarded them out to the rest of the commissioners, nor did I get time to read them. So I think it would be a little bit improper of us to vote on them, given that I didn't give anybody else the chance to read them. But I don't know if Delene had to go attend to something, but Greg.
No, I have no. It's not, I mean, it's up to Greg. I have no problem at all.
No, I mean, that's fine. I mean, they're public. They go up on Dilane as soon as you send them out. I mean, they go up on the city website.
Yep.
You know, shortly thereafter, so they're
Yeah, we have to have them
accessible.
up within 7 days, so they are always available online.
Yeah, so you can always access them on the city website.
Sure, it's nice to have the to be poked about it, though, right?
True. But I mean, it's up to Dilene. If you want to include everybody, that's fine. If not, we can, you know, Tanner and I we can send it out to everybody. You know, I don't want to put another task on your plate, Dilene.
Okay, it's no problem. That's fine. No problem.
All right, much appreciated. Does anybody want to vouch for the notes? I'm sorry that I didn't do it I haven't read them this month, so I can't vouch for them. But if nobody has, then we'll vote on them next month and approve them. All right, let's punt that to the next meeting then. And everybody, all the commissioners should receive the notes, and I invite you to please read them so that we can vote on them. Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Christine, second. Emily, all in favor? Thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you on the first Monday of October, which I think is the 2nd. So in just a few weeks. Thanks.
Have
Thank
a
you.
good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.